we have seen enough. Now it's time to send our first request. So Postman enables us to create and send API requests, send a request to an endpoint, retrieve data from a data source, or test an API's functionality. You don't need to enter commands in a terminal or write any code. Create a new request and select and select send. So and the API response appears right inside the Postman on the workbench. So API requests defined. So API provides a structured way for one application to access the capabilities of another application. Typically, this communication happens over the internet by way of an API server. A client application like a mobile app example sends a request to the server, and after the request processes, the server returns a response to the client. So a request includes the URL of the API endpoint and an HTTP request method. Okay, endpoint is also important. In addition to that, you need to have a HTTP request method. The method indicates the action you want the API to perform. Here are some of the most common methods that we use that you can screen on your screen, that you can see on your screen. So the first one is get, G-E-T. So get retrieves data from an API, and we have post, P-O-S-T, sends new data to an API, and we have put, P-U-T, put or patch, update the existing data, whereas delete, D-E-L-E-T-E, removes existing data. So let's send our first request. So now let's get into our Postman. Yeah, this is our Postman. So now you you can see this either if you want to do it in, of course, at this moment you don't worry about the collection. Okay, just click on a plus in the workbench. Okay, this is our workbench. Everybody know, I hope everybody knows about this because we have done it. We have discussed all those things. This is our workbench. Inside this workbench, we have this tab menu. So you can see all the tabs here. So click on this plus symbol in this workbench to open a new tab. That's it. The new tab has been opened. Forget about the rest, all other things like Postman collections and nothing. Let's you take it as completely an empty, just a freshly opened and installed API Postman. So that's the interface that you're having. Just click on this icon, and after that we have to type the endpoint first. Then we will attach the method, HTTP request method. So I'll type the endpoint first, Postman. I'm using the Postman endpoints itself. Postman hyphen so echo.com. This is my endpoint. Let me put a forward slash, and what I want to do is I want to get. So I'm gonna say get, G-E-T. That's it. And this is our request URL. This is the request URL. So now this is our endpoint and this is get. So this will go there and it will fetch something. Let's see what it's gonna fetch. Let me click on send to call this API. We in API terminology we say calling a API. So I'll click on send to call this API, and that's it. Here it is. Here is your response. You see that? You got the response. So Postman displays the response data sent from the server in the lower pane. So this is that lower pane. So this is a response pane. You can see that, and both will be in the workbench only. Okay, this is the tab menu, and here you'll have the save options, and this is total in this workbench. Here you'll have a call API call section, and below that you'll have one more window, that's the response window. Okay, it's a low in this lower pane we'll get a response and more information about that response. Okay, so now we will, so you got that? Of course, you also got that. So this is the URL that we have used, a complete URL, HTTP, okay, with get method, and it got this information. Okay, this is JSON. You see that? It's a JSON. You see the format, JSON. Let me click on XML to convert that into the XML. HTML, HTML, you see that? And text, a simple text, yeah, then auto, again auto, it will become JSON. So it's a pretty, it's a stylish. Okay, so raw and preview, this is how it looks in the preview way. Okay, let's make it JSON pretty. So now you see this is the orgs, and then these are the headers. You should consist of these 7 headers in our headers section also. You see that total 7 headers. Let me click on, yeah, let me, you see that, you got it, all key, cookie, host, you see that host, and user agent, postman. Okay, here agent we have used the postman runtime 7.30.1, that's what our version. Then accept forward slash, accept encoding ggip dflat, and connection keep alive, and forwarded x forwarded proto HTTP. You see that protocol, the forwarded protocol that we have used is HTTP, and then forwarded port that we have used is 80. Then host is this postman echo.com. This is very important. This is where the data that we have receiving has been served. This machine, this server has served, and the IP or the URL of the that host is this postman echo.com. Okay, and that complete and inside that postman.echo.com you could see your, okay, let me call it one more time. Okay, anyway, I hope it's pretty clear for you the response. But now the question arises, what had happened here? So the question is, what had happened? So how this postman did it? How does this work? So how basically, when we answer what had happened, we will answer how the postman works also. So what happened here is, in this example, in the previous example that we have done, so postman is acting as the client application and is communicating with an API server. So here is what happened when you select a send. So this is our API with the HTTP request method, and then when you click on send, what happens is the first step, you see that it's moving. The first step is postman sent a get request to the postman echo server, echo API server located at postmanecho.com. Clear? So postman echo API is a server. So it's a server, and the name we have attached to it, it is a postman echo API using domain or subdomain and domain. Then once we send a request or call a API, this get request will go to this postman API server inside and into the postmanecho.com. Okay, then the API server received the request. So now API server have received the request, and it returned a response to the postman. That's what had happened next. So now let me enter Yes, see, now the response has been returned. So request sent, processed, and then a response sent. So postman finally received the response and displayed it in the response pane. That's what had happened. So we have used Postman to send an API request and got a response from the API server. So it's okay to take a moment to sit back and reflect on how fantastic it is. By the time I will see you on another exercise.